My name is Mark, a recording angel. I've been observing this earth since the dawn of creation. The Most High has asked me to share my recordings with you. The following are my records of humans during the fascinating times when the desire of ages, Jesus the Messiah, came to this earth. And they're collected in this book, Victory of the Warrior King, the story of the life of Jesus. If today's recording contains situations which might be uncomfortable for younger listeners, I will mark the video with the words parental guidance recommended. Rachel, Nazareth. I must admit that when I received the assignment to record Rachel and her choices in Nazareth, I felt a twinge of disappointment. It was so close to the time for the birth of the Messiah. I knew from the prophecies that it would take place in Bethlehem, yet I had been sent to a tiny town with a bad reputation instead. However, the Mighty One had always been good to me, and his assignments were always reasonable and fair, so I swallowed my disappointment and prepared to record for Rachel. At least I had not had to go to some obscure village on a continent far away. I would still be able to watch as the Almighty's secret plan unfolded. Nazareth seemed to be a town with a definite seedy side, though a few families still worshiped the Almighty, Rachel's family being one of them. She was a devout Hebrew girl who, having just stepped across the threshold from childhood to young womanhood, was available for marriage. Rachel ran down the path toward the village well. Her friend Mary was already there in line with the other women to draw water. She grabbed Mary's arm and whispered, "It's happened. It's started." Mary flung her arms around Rachel. "Now we can both be married women together." The other girl nodded. "I hope they choose someone really wonderful for me," she said. "Of course they will," Mary said with a smile. "They love you." Suddenly Rachel's face clouded. "A lot of people we know have families that love them, but they picked old men for them because those men were rich." Her friend looked at the ground. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't mean you. Anyway, Joseph isn't that old. I mean, really, really old." "Joseph is quite a bit older than I am," Mary replied, "but he's a good man, and he needs a mother for his children." "Yes, and I know he'll be really good to you. Joseph is a very kind man, yet I would really like somebody closer to my age. I think it would be easier to be a first wife." Mary shyly nodded and blushed. "But I know you'll really be happy with Joseph. Still, isn't this exciting? We might end up getting married at the same time. Who knows?" "It's possible," Mary replied. "I've been betrothed for only a short time." "Do you know when Joseph is going to take you to his home?" Mary laughed. "Oh, only the bridegroom's father knows that for sure. If it was up to our grooms, they would barely construct the shell of a room before they would move us in. It's a good thing it's left up to the fathers. Joseph's family will make sure that he builds a nice room and completes it, perhaps with a nice table and a storage trunk." "Yeah, those things would be nice," Rachel agreed, "and it's good that Joseph's preparing you a room of your own." "With children already," Mary added, "it'll be good to have 2 rooms for all of us. Besides, I would always feel as if I was in Hadassah's room, even though she's been dead for a long time now." "I know what you mean," Rachel said. "It would feel strange." By this time, the group of older women had drawn their water, and the 2 girls were able to approach the well. I followed them as they carried their heavy water pots up the dusty street to their homes. Negotiations for marriages took place early in this culture. Though Rachel was only 12 years of age, it was not an unusual time to get married. Her betrothal would usually last about a year. The girls in their enthusiasm had chatted about their prospective husbands needing the time to finish adding a room for them onto the family home that usually surrounded a common courtyard area. Another reason for the year-long wait was to make sure that the young bride was not carrying someone else's child. Surely with these 2 worshippers of Jehovah, that would not be a problem. As they walked along, Rachel's face saddened again. "During the negotiations for your betrothal, did you ever feel like you were being sold to the highest bidder?" Mary laughed. "A little bit, though I don't think I got sold to the highest bidder because I believe Cleophas actually offered more money. I think my father felt Joseph would be a better husband." "Yeah, Rachel agreed. Joseph will be a good husband. Anyway, a lot of the money that your future husband gives your father for a dowry is going into coins for your headpiece. You'll get to keep it if you're ever widowed or divorced. Fathers retain only a small amount of that as compensation for the loss of all the work we do, and since men don't think that's worth much, most of it will be yours anyway. Rachel laughed. That's true. I hadn't thought of it like that. It will be okay, Mary said. Really, it will. You're just having jitters over the idea of becoming betrothed. It made me nervous, too, but once that is over, you have a long time yet to get used to the idea before you'll actually move into his house. Rachel sighed. Oh, you always make me feel better, Mary. Her words made me smile. The Almighty always planned for his children to support each other with their friendships. Humans without close friendships have to bear their trials and anxieties alone, and the burden is much heavier because of that. I watched Rachel as she carried the water back to her house and helped her mother prepare for the special dinner that evening. They baked fresh bread, brought out their best dried fruit so carefully prepared earlier that year, and sent Joshua, her little brother, out to choose a chicken and have it butchered and blessed by the rabbi. The time seemed both to drag and rush by at the same time. Her stomach had twisted into a tight knot by the time Judah and his father Matthew arrived at the house. Rachel's mind was in a blur as they did all the formal greetings. She could hardly eat. Judah seemed nervous too. He spent a lot of time looking at his plate. He did sneak a shy glance at her. She smiled, and then they both looked down, embarrassed. And now, her father said, turning to Matthew and to Judah, for the business at hand. Judah reached into the bag he had brought and produced a pouch of coins. The bride price we agreed on, he said, and passed it to Rachel's father. The price is paid, he said, placing the coins on the table before him. The two fathers talked for several minutes, and then Matthew and Judah prepared to leave. Before Judah slipped out the door, he stepped over next to Rachel and whispered, I'm going home now to prepare a special place for you, but the next time I come back, I'm taking you with me, and then you and I will always be together as long as we live. Rachel's heart jumped into her throat. She lifted her eyes and stared into his face, and he smiled at her. Judah, his father said, come on, we must be going. It's not seemly for you to stand chatting with young women not of your family. Judah turned and smiled at Matthew. But, Father, I wasn't. I was just talking with my wife. The whole family laughed, and Rachel drew a deep breath. What a lovely sound, my wife, she thought. She hoped it wouldn't be long before Judah took her to his home. The next day, on the way to the well, Rachel and Mary were whispering and giggling together as usual. Mary caught her friend's arm. Do you realize? Now we're both married women. Rachel laughed. It doesn't feel much different than before, does it? No, I suppose that's because we haven't gone to live in the homes of our husbands. Still, it sounds kind of exciting to say husband, doesn't it? It's true, Rachel giggled. But even though we haven't gone to live with them or borne their children, if something were to happen to them, we would be widows. That thought left both of them sober. What's the matter with you? Asked Mahitobel, a neighbor woman. You look miserable on a day when at least one of you should be really happy. She winked at Rachel. Both girls looked up. We were just thinking that if something happened to our men, it would make us widows. The older woman laughed. Well, if anything does happen to any of our men, we would be left widows, but all of us will be widows someday, unless we die first, and that will be worse. The girls nodded, thinking of all the women who had died in childbirth in Nazareth. Since it's going to happen to all of us eventually, she continued, don't worry about it. After all, this is the day the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Human life was short. So many of the people of this time would be dead by the time they were in their late 20s. Few lived beyond 40 human years. But the Almighty never intended for them to spend the time they had worrying about their demise. They had people to love and much to rejoice in. Some weeks later, Rachel sat on the stones next to the well, waiting. Where was Mary? The girls looked forward to their daily chats at the well in the cool of the morning. Finally, Rachel looked up to see her friend's mother walking briskly to the well with a family water pot. Where's Mary? Asked Rachel. She's ill, the woman answered abruptly. Oh, what's the matter? May I come visit her? No, she has a fever. She needs to rest. Well, tell her I hope she feels better. Mary's mother looked and met Rachel's direct gaze. So do I, she said. So do I. During the following 2 days, Mary's mother continued to draw the water for the family. On the third night, the weather was hot as families all slept up on the flat roofs of their homes, where they could get a little evening breeze. All the guardian angels were in their places for night duty, except Rachel's. The girl, after waiting until everyone's even breathing and soft snoring told her they were resting quietly, had slipped down the side stairs and hurried through the narrow and crooked street. Her guardian and I followed closely. Nazareth was hardly a safe place for a young girl to be out alone in the daytime, much less at night. Standing beneath the fig tree outside Mary's house, she gave a low whistle. After repeating it, she heard one back from the roof of Mary's house. Soon Mary, her guardian, and her recorder slipped down the stairs and out to the tree. The two girls embraced tearfully. Mary, what's wrong? I was so worried about you. I've missed you so much. Are you well? Her friend nodded. But your mother said you were ill? Mary sighed. Mother thinks I am ill. Well, what happened? You have to promise to believe me, Mary began. Puzzled, Rachel answered, Of course I believe you. I've never known you to tell a lie in your whole life. What's the matter? Mary tried to smile. Well, if you do believe me, you'll be the first. Something happened. An angel appeared to me. Rachel gasped. An angel? Quiet, Mary whispered. You're going to wake the whole family. I'm sorry. An angel? Yes. The angel told me that I am to have a child and that he will save his people from their sins. Even in the dim light of the stars, Mary could see excitement fill Rachel's face. The Messiah? Oh, that's wonderful. Every girl in Israel has prayed and hoped that they would be the mother of the Messiah. What on earth is wrong with that? I'm pregnant now, Mary replied softly. You are? Rachel's eyes widened. But we always said we were going to wait until after. Mary grimaced. I know, but Joseph and I didn't do anything. What do you mean? How can you be pregnant if... I don't know. I don't know how God does these things. But the angel told me that I'm carrying his child. My monthly flows have stopped, and, well, I have the other signs too. Rachel's mouth gaped open. Mary, you didn't fool around on Joseph, did you? Mary stared at her friend in horror. How could you even think that? I'm sorry. Rachel thought for a moment. Are you sure about this angel thing? The angel didn't do anything to you or hurt you, did he? No, he just told me what was going to happen, and I told him it was okay. Oh, it just doesn't seem right. Why would God bring disgrace on the family that was going to raise a Messiah? You know, everyone will think that... Yes, I know. Mary bit her lip, fighting back tears. That's what my parents think now. What about Joseph? Mary began to cry softly. Joseph loves me. Rachel could barely hear the words. But, Mary, have you told him? If Joseph finds out, he could have you stoned. The girl cried harder. He won't have me stoned. He's already been told. I'm to be divorced quietly to avoid a scandal. Oh, he must really love you, Rachel gasped. Yes, he does. I can't understand why doing God's will would bring such sorrow and embarrassment to him. He's a good man. You sure this is God and not some night demon? Rachel demanded. Mary struggled for words. He said something else, that my Aunt Elizabeth is also expecting a child, and that... Your Aunt Elizabeth? Rachel protested incredulously. Your old Aunt Elizabeth, the one that's married to the priest Zechariah? Wordlessly, Mary nodded, and Rachel let out a giggle. That would have to be a sign from God. If your Aunt Elizabeth could be pregnant at all, then it wouldn't be hard for anyone to believe you were carrying the Messiah. That's what I'm hoping. I've convinced my parents to let me visit her. Well, now is a good time. That way, perhaps it'll keep the rumors from circulating, and anybody who wants to stone you has some time to calm down. Yes, Mary agreed, although I cannot believe that a God as powerful as ours would fill me with his Messiah, then allow me to be stoned. Surely he already has a plan in mind. Rachel hugged her. You've always had so much more faith in me. Her friend dried her tears on her sleeve. I wish I had more right now. Sometimes I'm so sure, and then sometimes I just feel so sad. I find myself crying for no reason." To her own surprise, Rachel suddenly laughed. "Isn't that supposed to be a sign of pregnancy, Mary?" Mary managed to laugh too. "Yeah, I suppose it is. I'm to leave tomorrow early. I just have to find out how Elizabeth is. It'll answer so many questions." Rachel hugged her. "I'm so sorry you and Joseph are getting divorced. I don't understand it at all, but they do say God does mysterious things." Swallowing hard, Mary replied, "Well, this will go down in history as one of the most mysterious. I'm sure of it." The two girls hugged again, and then Rachel slipped away toward home, and Mary slowly climbed the steps. The two girls may have been in tears, but an ecstasy filled me that I had only felt during some of our greatest praise sessions in the presence of the Almighty. It made me want to fly spinning spirals through Earth's atmosphere, shouting praises to the Mighty One. How could I have been disappointed at being sent to Nazareth? I had been given an assignment close to the very place where the Creator was to become human. In fact, He was right in my presence, in the body of this young girl. The other guardians were as excited as I was. We made sure to keep our shouts of praise only on frequencies that would not disturb human ears. What an honor! And we wondered how Mary would wind up in Bethlehem as the prophecies had stated. But it wasn't a problem. The Almighty had handled much more difficult geography than that, and we were certain that everything would work out. All of us just hoped that we would be assigned there too. Rachel, Nazareth, several months later. Dawn was barely streaking the sky when Rachel's guardian prodded her awake. The girl yawned and stretched. Going to the well was no fun any more since Mary had left. She often rose early to draw water before the crowds came. The happy chatter of the other women just made her feel her loneliness even more keenly. Grabbing the family's heavy water pot, she headed for the well. In the dim light, she thought she saw a figure sitting on the low wall next to the well. Could it be? "Mary!" she shrieked, and dropping her water jar, she went flying toward her friend. The other girl jumped up and flung her arms around Rachel. "I'm so glad to see you. When did you come back? This is wonderful." Mary laughed. "I got back last night. It was late and I haven't slept much, but I thought I'd come early in case I could catch you before the others got here." "Oh, I'm so glad to see you," Rachel sputtered. "Tell me everything. What happened? And are you still, were you really—" "I am." Mary pulled her garment tightly against her body to reveal that her stomach was beginning to swell with child. "Does, are you divorced? What has Joseph said?" "It's all wonderful," Mary exclaimed. "God has worked everything out. Aunt Elizabeth really is pregnant. She will be having her baby any day now." "Really?" said Rachel breathlessly. "Then it's true?" Mary nodded. "It's true. And an angel came to Joseph in a dream and told him that I had been telling the truth, and that he shouldn't be afraid to keep me as his wife." "So you're going to be married?" "We are married," said Mary. "There won't be any big wedding celebration since, well, you can almost see now." Rachel stood back and looked at her friend's figure. "People might not be able to tell the difference between this and your having eaten a lot at Aunt Elizabeth's house." "I considered that too," laughed Mary, "but my condition will be unmistakable soon enough." "So what did Joseph say?" Mary smiled. "He's so wonderful. Arriving at Aunt Elizabeth's house, he said he had come to fetch his wife home. Aunt Elizabeth didn't really want to let me go, but Joseph was insistent, and since we had not been divorced yet, I am his wife, so he brought me home to his house. He said that if the Almighty was going to send his Messiah to be born through his wife, the least he could do was protect the two of them, and it is his intention to take very good care of us." "Oh, how sweet," Rachel sighed. "And then, as Aunt Elizabeth was sputtering about not letting me leave, he stopped and whispered to her that he didn't think it fitting or proper for a virgin to be in the house when a child was being born. You should have seen the look on Aunt Elizabeth's face." Mary and Rachel rocked with laughter. "Well, it's true," Mary said. "I may be pregnant, but I am still a virgin." Rachel nodded. "Aunt Elizabeth didn't say another word. She just helped me get my things together and packed us a huge lunch basket to take with us. I'm going to miss her so much." "I'll bet she'll miss you too." "Yes, but I'm really happy to be back here, and I'm happy to be in Joseph's home." Are you going to tell anyone? Rachel asked. I mean, about the father of your baby? Mary shook her head. Joseph and I talked about it. The angel didn't tell us what to do about other people, so we have decided to say nothing. Joseph said people can think whatever they like, and if they assume this is his child, he'll be proud for them to believe that until God lets us know something different. But they'll think that you two, Yes, I know, Mary sighed, but I had a long time to think about that. There have been other times when the things God has asked his people to do haven't always made sense to them at the time. All the stories of the children of Israel in the desert, they thought God had sent them out to starve because there wasn't any food there. It didn't make sense to them, and yet God had a plan all along. After enough such experiences, you would think they would have learned to trust him. Now it's happening to me, and I have to trust him too. This is all he told me, so I just need to trust him until he tells me what to do next. I won't tell anyone either, Rachel said, no matter what people say. Good, Mary replied grimly, because I imagine they'll be saying lots of things, but likely very little about a Messiah. Slowly, Rachel nodded. I found myself nodding in agreement along with her. The gossip would be vicious, but their decision to keep the child's parentage a secret was right. The Almighty had chosen well this young woman and her loving carpenter husband. I marveled at his wisdom as once again piece after piece of his plan fell into place. Truly, he is amazing. This broadcast has come from the book Victory of the Warrior King by Sally Pierson Dillon, with permission from the Review and Herald Publishing Association. This book and the rest of the series, War of the Ages, can be purchased by going to www.adventistbookcenter.com or by calling 1-800-765-6955. I'm your narrator, Austin Backus, and this audio project is a gift to you from my free Christian book ministry, RXF 1888. Please visit our website, www.rxf1888.com, to request free Christian books for both kids and adults. And join us here again for more stories from Mark the Recording Angel.